Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Garhdo Goes Geek. On today's episode, we're doing something a bit different. I'm joined by my wife, Tallulah.
Hello.
And for the first time, my other partner, Zulu.
Hello.
And
Good to have you here.
It is.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Regular listener, first time contributor. Yes. And today's episode, we are going to be doing a sort of roundtable discussion for Red Dwarf, a series that has recently had its 35th anniversary and that we're all huge fans of. So we thought we'd look back at how it started in seasons 1 to 8.
Good morning, Dave. It is now safe for you to emerge from stasis.
Have we just got in?
Please proceed to the drive room for debriefing.
Where is everybody on?
They're dead, Dave.
Who is?
Everybody, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Selby?
They're all dead. Everybody's dead, Dave.
Peterson isn't, is he?
Everybody is dead, Dave.
Not Chen.
Dawn Bennett, yes, Chen. Everybody's dead, Dave.
Rimmer?
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Wait. Are you trying to tell me everybody's dead?
Should have never let him out in the first place.
So, Red Dwarf, comedy sci-fi series from the BBC, which is a weird one. Who wants to go first? Who wants to discuss? When did you first see it, Zulu?
Well, I was there at the beginning.
Oh, here we go.
So this was a formulative show for me because it came out in my teenage years. And I very distinctly remember watching it. And it was a smaller comedy. It wasn't as popular to begin with. It was a BBC Two one.
It was a bit of a slower start one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Critics, I don't think got it
No.
quite. But it was, it's a sci-fi sitcom.
Yeah.
And I had my love of sci-fi, but it wasn't quite as realistic because I might already be going off on tangents here.
That's fine.
But it things like Star Trek were idealised sci-fi. I was never going to be one of those officers, but if I was ever in a future with a ship travelling through space, I'd be mopping floors
on Red Dwarf. Yeah. And it's also it's interesting you compare it to something like Star Trek, because obviously Star Trek The Next Generation I think started in 87, so that was the year before. And then Red Dwarf came out in 88.
Yeah.
And Next Generation is very, very clean.
It's shiny. It's shiny sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got, as ropey as some of the things in that first season are, it's still Star Trek. It's got a very high production, and I think there's 26 episodes. Whereas Red Dwarf is 6 episodes.
Yeah, and Red Dwarf was low budget.
Yeah,
it was 3, then 4 people in a box.
It was filmed in the BBC canteen, wasn't it? Part of it.
Oh right.
That really wouldn't surprise me.
Like in all the back corridors of BBC studios.
Yeah.
They definitely got sets later on.
Yeah. It had a very basic and industrial feel out of necessity. But then that worked because everything had to come from the script and character driven.
Yeah, it's like I've seen people complain about like classic Doctor Who, where everything looks like it's made out of cardboard and everything's kind of wobbling around a little bit. Like there's cardboard cut out Daleks in some of the group scenes and stuff like that. Red Dwarf is exactly like that.
Yeah.
It is
the great BBC budget.
It doesn't stretch very far. There was only 6 episodes as well. For pretty much every season except for 7 and 8. For some reason. What about you, Tallulah? What was your big experience with Red Dwarf?
Well, I really wasn't supposed to watch Red Dwarf.
See me.
I think the first season I watched, because it was on past 9 o'clock, and I had to turn my telly off at 9.
Mm.
And the first season I was allowed to watch, I think, was season 7.
Yes.
Um,
Which was quite late. That was 97.
Yeah, I was 10.
Yeah.
So, and I was allowed to keep my telly on till 9:30.
Mm.
So, yeah, I can remember watching season 7, and there's some that would argue that season 7 isn't the best season.
Mm.
But there were some bits of it that I just thought was so clever.
Yes.
Like, because it's the one with Tika to Ride, isn't it? With
Yes.
JFK.
Yeah, which we'll get to that in a bit.
And of course, being a lifelong conspiracy theorist nut, I don't believe the theories, but I love hearing them.
Yes.
I just thought it was so clever.
Mm.
Interesting, I also went on to do American history as part of my degree, so you never know, might be informative. And I watched season 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And then
did you sort of go back and watch the others?
I think I was about 17 when I watched the other seasons, because my boyfriend at the time bought them on DVD.
Yes.
So I was 17 or 18 before I actually watched the earlier seasons.
Mm.
And it was just so small. You know, everything took place in some episodes took place mostly in like the room with their bunks.
Yes.
And I was like, well, how did that become what I'd been watching, where they were in the, you know, off in history and, you know, fighting Gelf and all this sort of thing. Yeah.
See, Red Dwarf was one of those that it used to get repeated on BBC Two quite a lot. Mainly whenever they were gearing up for a new season.
Yeah.
But it was one of those ones that my mum liked. She was a big fan of Craig Charles, and so she was already a fan of Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
So I sort of came to it, and it was one of those things that she let me stay up and watch.
Yeah.
So I ended up watching, I think, Series 5, maybe Series 4, because I'd definitely seen some of Series 4 before watching Series 5, because I remember Ace Rimmer, for example. Yeah. And definitely Season 6. Like, I remember seeing the Series 6 cliffhanger, which came out in 93, and then waiting like 4 years to find out what happened. Yeah. Although I don't remember watching Season 7. Like, Season 7 just didn't stick in my head as much. No. I don't know why. I don't know if that was
people have said that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it was a bit older and just wasn't as memorable for me. But we'll get to that. Yeah. There's behind the scenes changes for Season 7 as well. But yeah, for me, Season 4, 5, and 6 are definitely the seasons that I've got the strongest attachment to, because they're the ones I remember watching.
Yeah.
And I do think they have some of the best episodes still, like watching it back. But yeah, it's interesting you said that it's like quite a small series at the start, because it goes on to be so big and to cover so many sci-fi tropes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that time as well, going back then, it was covering a lot of scientific ideas for the future.
Yeah.
And concepts that I didn't know or hadn't really experienced, being like a younger person then. But it introduced things like parallel universes.
Yes.
And all of these scientific theories, and you've got once Kryten's there, you've got Kryten as the intelligent individual out of the four in his own way, doing the exposition for all of the dum-dums, including us in the audience.
Yes, definitely.
And I think as well the fact that it was so unashamedly clever from so early on, like Future Echoes.
Yes, yeah. Future Echoes is one that sticks in my mind
early
as
on
cleverer.
In season 1.
Yeah, I think it's the second episode.
Yeah, so of course it's like, well, You know, they didn't. It wasn't. We'll slowly creep in with the science stuff.
Yeah.
It's we'll start as we mean to go on.
Yeah. And there was the potential there for that to be a really big arc of, I don't know how this is going to happen, but it's going to be really fun finding out.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, they could drag, cliffhanger for next season. No, it was like, what, the next episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or two?
Yeah.
And oh, right, okay, yes.
It was, I think...
Well, it turns out I'm pregnant.
Yeah, Future Echoes was the second episode, and then Parallel Universe, which is the first time that it really gets followed up on, is the end of season 2. But that was also later that year.
Yeah.
The first 2 series both aired in the same year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were filmed together, but they were both aired in 88.
Yeah.
So
it just felt like, I guess possibly from watching Doctor Who as a child and things going over seasons and over years, and
yes, especially Classic Who, because it's all the serials, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and it being sci-fi, there's that expectation, but it was much more condensed.
Yeah.
I
think a lot of it is kind of the done in ones as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's also something that I think is quintessentially British. Doing Red Dwarf itself as a show is very British. Like, you've got the regional accents, for example.
I mean, I've watched the American pilot, and it really doesn't work. Like, there are some bits that are actually quite funny, and they did raise a bit of a chuckle from me. But no, like, Lister's lines just don't sound right within a good old all-American boy drawl.
Have you seen both of the American pilots, or just the one? Because they did 2. And I know in one of them they got Terry Farrell from Star Trek Deep Space Nine as the cat. And they made her like a feline human hybrid type thing. So she's like an anime cat girl almost.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, I read that was one of the one of the things that didn't work was, there was there's criticism that there's not a female main character. That they're very stereotypical when they do show up.
Yeah.
And then when they tried to change that for the American pilot, it just didn't work, and it because there's all of these issues that it brings with it, and like the obligatory shipping, as it's called now. That we don't have to deal with that in the same way, because this is 4 blokes and boys from the Dwarf.
That's what I meant as well by it being sort of quintessentially British. Is it's very like, not lad culture, because that wasn't really a thing, but at the time that it came out, but definitely an element of that, where it's like, no, it's just 4 guys hanging out, 3 or 4 guys, and it's like, you've got the slob, you've got the prim one, you've got the fancy one, and you've got the idiot.
I know in The Log, which is a book that Craig Charles wrote, it's one of my favourites, he actually comments on how in the American pilot the cat was female, because he does a whole bit on how men and women are dogs and cats. And it's probably far too long to go into here, and he said that it was interesting that in the original American pilot the cat was female, because really in the early seasons the cat is the closest that the ship has to a woman.
What, preening himself around and
stereotypical feminine feline crossover. Something I read that I found quite interesting, when you go back 35 years, you've got a couple of things. Firstly, things always get accused of being woke now, don't they? Well, 2 of the cast weren't white.
No.
Was I believe black and mixed race.
Well, actually, that was kind of unintentional as well, because they wrote the character of the cat as black. And they specifically were looking for a black actor, and they ended up with John-Jules, who turned up in his father's zoot suit for the audition, and they were like, that's the guy. Which is great in and of itself. But
commit to the bit.
Yeah.
But also Craig Charles was brought onto the production because he was like quite a famous like punk poet.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they wanted to ask him what he thought about the
Yeah.
writing for the character of the cat
Yeah.
because it was two white guys writing it.
Yeah.
And they were very much like, is this a stereotype? Are we being racist? Are we doing something wrong? Because they were going for like the sort of the 50s cool
Yeah.
with the cat, which is again why the suit and things like that work so well. But obviously, you know, there's an element of that where it can go into the kind of the blaxploitation thing, and they were very conscious to try and avoid that. So they brought Craig Charles in for that, and it was in that where he read the script and he was like, no, a cat's cool.
Yeah.
By the way, this Lister guy's really interesting. Do you mind if I audition?
Yeah.
You know?
Excellent.
So that's how he got the role, is because he was brought on for another way.
Because none of them are actors. Danny's a dancer. Yeah. Craig Charles, punk poet.
Yeah.
And Chris Barry was impressionist.
Yeah, he was part of Spitting Image. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they bring in Robert Llewellyn,
and Norman Lovett,
they reinvent Kryten, he was a cartoonist.
Yeah.
Yes. And Norman Lovett was a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
But I think that adds to a lot of the charm because the first series is so, if you'll forgive my saying, unpolished.
Yes.
It's very. I think it's what they would describe in the critic circles as naive. You know, it's a very naive show because it was done by people who weren't industry professionals. And that, for me, that's a part of the charm of it.
Yeah.
And it's also part of almost like part of what makes it funny. Because if it was polished, you know, you see it with a lot of sitcoms today. They're so polished. People say the line, then pause for laughter.
Yes.
You know, sort of saying, see, that's funny.
Yeah.
And they deliver the lines less naturalistically.
They did have live.
They did have a live audience for Red Dwarf.
Because you get some points of that where they're obviously so focused on doing the lines that the laughter cuts in, and like Craig Charles has to repeat half of the line.
Yeah.
So that's good, but it's
apparently that played hell for some of the guest actors that came in later on. The big one that springs to mind is Timothy Spall in Back to Reality, because he'd never done a live audience before because he was a film and television actor. So he hadn't really done theatre, he'd never done stand-up comedy or anything like that. So apparently it took him ages to do his scene because he was really struggling. He wanted to get it so right. And obviously you have to react with the audience, and he wasn't used to that. So
the only time when you say to the audience, stop laughing at me. I can't do I can't do the Brummie accent. Sorry. I've got a very, very Middle England university accent. That's the only one I can do.
Okay. So, I mean, we'll probably go into the seasons and everything in a bit anyway. What about the characters on Red Dwarf? Because we kind of touched on the characters and the actors already. So there's only really sort of 6 or 7 main characters, you could probably argue, for the whole show. And it starts with, you know, just 4 if you count Holly.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of have to count Holly, despite the fact that Holly gets kind of written out partway through. I think you kind of definitely have to count Holly. So you have Dave Lister, who is the last human being alive. Because that's part of the premise of the show as well, isn't it? It's 3 million years in deep space because he smuggled a cat on board.
Yes.
And of all the humans, all the billions of options, it was one of the biggest, most useless layabout individuals.
Well, personally, I think that's what makes him quintessentially a good example of humanity. Because, you know, if you'd had like an Einstein or a Marie Curie or something like that, they're not an example of humanity as we actually are.
No.
Because at the root of it, the majority of humanity is lazy, slobby, happy-go-lucky, living for the weekend, you know.
There's a quote by George Carlin from one of his stand-ups where he says, you know, picture how dumb the average person is, and then remember that half of them are stupider than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you take the average person and then remember that half of them are worse than that, that's Lister.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
And it also just makes him relatable because he
Yeah.
is in many ways. Like, it makes you think, well, if I was the last human on Earth, what would I do? And of course, we all have these grand ideas of, oh, I'd write a book on humanity, or, you know, oh, I'd try and make some scientific discovery. No, we wouldn't.
No.
You get so bored. You know, you like...
We'd invent stupid games and we'd go through all the lockers.
Yeah, which is what Lister does.
Yeah.
And I mean, Lister's goals are quite simple. He just wants to, you know, he's 3 million years in deep space, which itself is weird as well, because it's like he's in stasis and there's a radiation leak. So he has to stay in stasis for 3 million years until the background radiation died down enough that he can be released. The thing is, Red Dwarf is a Jupiter mining core ship. And I don't think it ever goes faster than light speed. I think it approaches light speed a couple of times, which is where you get, is where you get future echoes. Yeah. But I don't think it can go faster than light, which means presumably if it was coming, like they mentioned they were at Titan, which is a moon of Saturn, and presumably heading back to Earth from Saturn, that suggests that they were in the solar system.
Yeah.
And then Holly decided to take them out of the solar system and carry on going 3 million years into deep space. You know, because of the radiation leak.
Yeah.
He could have just waited at Earth. He could have...
Yeah, just circled round and round.
Yeah.
But then he did go mad.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
He did get, like, computer dementia.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've done the thing there of trying to understand it and take an intelligent approach to it. And I've always, 35 years, I've taken the Dave Lister approach of I've just accepted it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they wrote and that's what happened, and I haven't questioned
it. Is what it is.
Yeah. And it's, his whole thing is just trying to get back home, which is such a simple, relatable goal, I think.
Yeah.
And his goal of having, you know, the farm on Fiji and
there's the love story element of it. It's the unobtainable, but that's also what gives him purpose and keeps him going. And saying, you know, what would you do if you were the last human being? And it's like, well, I ended up in this situation for love, so to make it meaningful, that's what I'll focus on.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think I'd complete all the craft projects I've got sat in my craft room. If I had 3 million years, I might just get them all done.
Maybe.
And then unravel them and start all over again.
Yeah.
I do think Lister, as well as, I mean, obviously, a lot of the focus with Lister is that he's a slob and, like, he just wants to eat curry and things like that. But I think there is more to Lister that we do see throughout the show, which I think is what makes him such a good character.
Yeah. And at the bottom of it, he's got a really good heart.
Yeah, he's very moral.
Yeah.
He's ultimate humanity, isn't he? His determination to help Kryten break his programming and experience emotion.
Yeah.
And
but not just the good emotions, like, say, Data in Star Trek.
All of them. And things like with Ace Rimmer.
Yeah.
And taking and being absolutely certain, although despising the man because he is a weasel. But absolutely determined to get him to this point to see you can do this. I believe in you.
Yeah. He is a good friend. I'll come to Rimmer in a minute because I quite like Rimmer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Dave is a great character.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the smartest, he's not the brightest, but he's very moral. And yeah, while he's a bit lazy, he does seem to work if he has to. Like when he's flying, him and the cat taking turns flying Starbug, chasing after Red Dwarf, for example. Or where he's determined to help Kachansky get home in season 7.
Yeah.
You know, he's putting an effort in, I think. And I think it helps.
Yeah. And he's just generally just so happy-go-lucky. Like, he has moments where he's bored and he's fed up and he's sick of it, and he says that a lot, I'm sick of it. But he is generally just so, like, happy-go-lucky and
Yeah.
you know, like there's an episode and it's all the way in season 7.
Yeah.
And Kryten finds a pink frilly like ladies dressing gown.
Oh yeah, and he ends up
he's,
wearing it.
He's like, oh great, I need a dressing gown, not just pink and frilly. He's like, no, I need a dressing gown, thanks. You know.
Yeah, that's how he meets Parallel Kachansky, isn't it? Yeah.
In a pink dressing gown with a box of dental floss stuck to his face.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Lister. Who do you want to discuss next?
Should probably do Rimmer.
Probably do Rimmer. Okay, so Rimmer is probably the due to antagonist for the show, isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways Rimmer probably has more development than any of the other characters. Like he gets a lot of focus episodes that reveal things about him. But and I've noticed this as we've gone back and rewatched it. Red Dwarf doesn't seem to be a stranger to retconning itself and like rewriting its own history.
Yeah.
And a lot of that happens around Rimmer, I've noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, one big example with Lister is obviously changing his relationship between him and Kachansky to have it go from sort of an unrequited love to, oh no, they used to date, but then they split up.
Yeah.
Which I think was a good change. And I think was a change that benefits the show and benefits the characters. And it's similar with Rimmer. Like there's a lot of retroactive changes to Rimmer that sort of address some of his more problematic aspects.
Yeah.
Like Yvonne Magruder.
Yeah.
Who is in early episodes like his only sexual experience. But she was like unconscious or like had a concussion or something at the time.
Yeah.
So it raises some really questionable
things
around consent and all that at the time, like even in the late 80s. But then they change it and say that, oh no, they did have a relationship, but it was very brief and it was kind of a brief dalliance.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course they change that as well later on. They give him another kiss before Yvonne Magruder. They give him, I think, another sexual experience as well. And it's like they develop the character and they go really into him and his neuroses. And I think that's one of the things for me that makes him such a good character.
Yeah.
Because he could be such an incel.
Oh, yeah.
Such a really horrible, toxic character. And I think in a lot of early episodes he is.
Yeah.
Or at least elements of him are. Like in Me Too, I think it is in season 1, where you get a second hologram Rimmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, so you've got the two holograms at the same time.
Yeah.
And you actually said this, Tallulah, where you said that one of them is a lot nicer.
Yeah, because he's had the time
Yeah.
with Lister and the cat, and he's started to soften even at that point.
Yeah.
And he can't stand himself how he was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's actually when you start to see a lot of, like, he and Lister develop more of a friendship. Well, they're still antagonists, but it's more like...
Yeah.
Almost like brothers.
Yes.
There is an understanding, and I think it's something they touch on with the Ace Rimmer and the point in their past where they changed and it was the making of him. And with the more you learn about his past, it is more, okay, this isn't a likable individual, but then when you learn about their history and the way they were brought up, it was like, well, how would they be anything else?
Yeah.
They are a creature of their environment.
Yeah.
And he does become quite a sympathetic character. Like, you don't necessarily like him, but
he does. But then they retcon again because he becomes more likable and he can go off and be Ace, but then he goes back to being a weasel again, and it's
But that's a different version of Rimmer as well. Because I mean, that's the thing. There's Rimmer's a very complicated character at the same time, because like Lister's the lowest person on the ship. Rimmer is the only person who outranks him. So he's second technician, which is like one above the lowest rank on the ship. He literally repairs the vending machines. He's constantly putting Lister on report. He's got 3 brothers who are all in the Space Corps and all, as far as he's aware, captains doing amazingly well.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he constantly blames everyone else for his own failures.
Yeah.
He's never passed his astronavigation exam, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that actually causes the radiation leak on Red Dwarf by misrepairing the drive plate, which kills the crew, including him.
Yeah.
So then when Lister comes out of stasis, Holly brings Rimmer back to keep him sane.
Yes.
Which I think works. And I think, like you were saying, Tallulah, they kind of keep each other sane and develop each other.
Yeah.
Which is great. But then we get the introduction of Ace Rimmer in Series 4's Dimension Jump, who comes in from a parallel reality. And Ace he's a test pilot, isn't he, for the Space Corps?
What a guy.
And he... Yeah, because normal Rimmer is a git. Like Chris Barry even describes himself, he's a git.
Yeah.
And he wanted to play someone heroic. So they wrote Ace Rimmer, parallel version of Rimmer, who is a hero and much more charming and speaks with a real kind of brave accent.
Space Biggles.
Yes,
Space
basically.
Biggles, yes.
And he jumps into the main Red Dwarf reality, meets Rimmer. Rimmer can't stand him. Ace can't stand him. Man's a weasel, a maggot. Don't like him.
This is why I've been referring to him as a weasel.
Yeah.
Yes. because Ace does, and I'm like, you're spot on there, mate.
Yeah.
What a guy. Yeah.
What a guy. But then Ace carries on jumping away and then comes back later on. Right, yeah, so Ace comes back later on and Series 7, isn't it? And they reveal that he's actually been replaced at some point with a hologram version of himself from another reality. So yet another reality. Yeah. And Ace is now this passed down identity for them all to take over. And now it's Rimmer's turn to do that. Which I think is quite good. And and the actual change between Ace and Rimmer is quite good as well, where it's like it's literally that one of them got held back a year.
Yes.
And Rimmer thinks that, Ace got a break that he didn't.
Yeah, but he didn't have to repeat a year. Ace didn't have to repeat a year, and I obviously did.
Yeah.
Oh, but actually it's the other way round.
Yeah, Ace is the one that repeated a year.
Yeah.
And that's what made him buckle down and really study to become this awesome person.
Because at that point he realised he didn't have anyone else to blame.
Yeah. And that's...
Rimmer's whole thing is blame everyone else. It's not my fault, it's my parents' fault, it's my brother's fault, it's Stinky Bateman's fault.
Yeah.
Was it Stinky Bateman who invented the tension sheet?
No, that was Thicky Holden.
Thank you. Oh no, Stinky Bateman, he set fire to his turnips in prep.
There you go.
Yeah, British boarding school kind of things. Yeah. But so Rimmer now goes off and becomes Ace for season 7, which means that Chris Barry's then written out the show.
Yeah. Didn't he go to do Lara Croft Tomb Raider?
I think he did, yes.
Yeah.
Which was around about that time, 1997, 98. And then came back for Series 8 in 99, which was where the nanobots have brought back Red Dwarf and also brought back all of the human crew.
Yes.
So now, including Rimmer. So you also get Rimmer back along with everyone else. But he's not quite reset to season 1 Rimmer, though, is he? He's kind of...
Like, he gets up to what I would call mischief. Like, spiking the officers' drinks and stuff. And, I don't think season 1 Rimmer would have done that.
No.
But season 8 Rimmer does, and sort of, despite the fact he's blaming Lister, when they're talking about it, you can see him smirking. Yeah,
because they all end up in prison together. And then in the modern shows where they brought it back, he's now dead again, somehow.
Yeah.
And a hologram again.
Really annoyed that he kicked him in the knackers.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Chased him down after that. Well, limped after him after that.
Yeah. I do know that there was a lot of discussion in Red Dwarf Series 8 about whether Rimmer was going to die. Like, that's part of the reason why in Cassandra they say he's going to die.
Yeah.
It's so that he gets turned back into a hologram. because
Okay.
audiences were like, "Oh, they're not going to keep him as Rimmer.
Yeah.
They can't keep him
Yeah.
as Rimmer. You
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
he's going to be dead again, surely, and become a hologram."
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to have that additional point for resentment.
Yeah.
And
But I do think having him not as a hologram did allow him more interaction because he could touch things and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, you already could at that point anyway.
Yeah.
The hard light.
they'd already worked that round.
Yeah.
I do like the way they work those things around, and it's like, okay, well, we'll just meet this character who will give them hard light.
Yeah.
And you know, I was like, this isn't working. So actually, yeah, the way they've worked it, that we need you to take him out of. We need to take Chris Barry out for a while, so we created this whole arc, and with Ace Rimmer, and then when that didn't work, you know, it was different Rimmer, different reality, back to Weasel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although watching it back, I was surprised that comes so late. Like the hard light thing happens in Legion, which is series 6.
Yeah.
So it's a lot later than I remember it being.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because it means you don't even really get a full series.
I wouldn't
of him
be
being
surprised
hard light.
I wouldn't be surprised if they actually forgot that he was like a hologram, and then you had like audience members at like Comic-Con and stuff saying, "Well, how did he touch this? Because he's a hologram."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it was because we forgot.
Red Dwarf does actually have its own con.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting what it's called because it has its name is obviously a reference to Red Dwarf, and I'm going to have to look it up now because otherwise it's going to bother me.
Yeah. Well, while you're looking that up, should we move on to a different character?
Okay. So, who do you want to discuss next? I think it's Cat or Holly, isn't it? Really, if we're starting with the season 1.
Yeah.
group.
I think it should be Cat next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who, from an evolution point of view, was just a fantastic like little thought experiment.
Yeah.
You know, well, what if? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if evolution happened again, but this time instead of apes, it was cats?
Yes.
And Lister's a god.
Yeah. Cloister.
Yeah, the Lister's a god thing.
Mm-hmm.
I forget about that as a plot line because that's kind of abandoned quite early on in season 1, and then they brought it back last year, was it, or a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
For the Promised Land.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was very clever. I mean, we're not really talking about the modern stuff today, but the modern stuff is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a good throwback to classic Red Dwarf, and I think Promised Land is
Yeah.
quite good itself on its own. Like, it's very funny for what it is, but they also bring back the cats and do more with them, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. But I think that Danny John-Jules was just perfect casting.
Yes.
You know, being a dancer and being a trained ballet dancer, he moves in such an agile, like cat-like way. Like especially in early seasons where he would like glide into a room.
Yeah, he kind of jumps in like like that, doesn't he? And slides in everywhere. Yeah, it's great.
And struts and stalks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes, here we go. The Red Dwarf con is called Dimension Jump. There you are, see?
You can put your mind at rest
I
now.
can. I knew it was like a reference to an episode and to a good episode. And I was thinking tongue-tied, and then I was like, no, that's what the wiki is called.
Yeah.
Because the wiki is tongue-tied. Which is also something you can mention because of Cat as well, because that was something that actually came out of the performance. Like they came up with an actual song and released it.
Oh yes, yeah.
And performed it on Top of the Pops.
Why am I always the one that ends up singing, even though I've got like the worst voice?
And then, of course, they insert it into an episode just because the episode was running short.
Yeah. Although that whole thing is so funny because you can spot the one who's classically trained. Let's put it that way.
What, Danny John-Jules?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Norman Lovett's ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's just wearing black gloves and just, messing about with it. But, it's funny.
But I know this is something you said, Zulu, with Cat, is that as time goes on, Cat kind of gets a bit mean-spirited and stupid.
Yeah, I think there's a certain season.
There's bits towards the end of
Yeah.
series 7, I think, where like Lister's lost his arm,
Yeah.
and Cat goes beyond just being clueless.
Yes. Yeah. And then they do another one of their resets, season 8, and he's back to who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, because that's the Cat you love, the one that's got the zingy lines, and the outfits, and don't confuse this for the outfit I was wearing last time I saw you, because that was like taupe and I don't know this. That was peach and this is tangerine.
Yeah.
You know.
That was slightly before that. That was it was series 6. Yeah, I remember that. That was a weird outfit. It looked like fetish wear.
The original premise of this evolution, and then not only have you got an evolution of a species, but because it's happening in space, and we've seen evolution on this planet, but like a whole world and different countries, but you don't get to meet other nations.
No.
So you don't get that exchange of ideas. You don't get that development of society in the same way. So society has developed.
What, the cat society?
Yeah, so the cat society has developed and a religion has developed. But you haven't had conflicting ideas, so it's still very like possibly two-tone, and it's still very, you know, food, fashion, and fucking.
Yeah. Well, there was kind of like there was a cat civil war, wasn't it? They do reference that as well.
Because I might have missed something, but what does happen to all the cats? Because if he evolved from a cat,
well,
but now he's the only, and then there's the old one that dies.
The priest.
Yeah, the old
they
priest.
all died out, from what I remember, apart from...
There was the old priest says it. He says there was a holy war.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to decide over which hats to wear at the fast food restaurant in Fushal, the donut shop or the sausage restaurant or whatever it was. And then there was a war, and then the winners left, and they were all the savage ones, and they left the infirm and the weak and the old behind. Yeah.
I remember now.
And Cat is born from a cripple and an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And that makes sense for the later films we've had.
With Promised Land,
yes.
Yeah. Because the leader of the cats in that is very savage.
Yeah.
You know, he's got almost like Sabretooth style fangs, isn't he?
The other thing that sort of I find odd is, why doesn't the cat have a name? Because you'd think if they developed society, they would have developed names, because they refer to Frankenstein.
But it goes back to that thing of, this was the one that was left behind.
I suppose if he was an orphan or something.
Yeah. Well, like I said, his parents were a cripple and an idiot.
Yeah.
Like they said, his father ate his own foot.
Yeah.
You know?
and a lot of what I've said about the cat is like the ideas I formed 35 years ago on season 1, before they'd written all of these other things. Now they've changed an awful lot, and they've developed an awful lot.
Yeah.
And like you say, and they've bought out Promised Land, and they've extended this society. But my mind still remembers these original ideas. I had, that's a fascinating concept, and that's my headcanon, and it's stuck.
Well, they did have some quite fascinating concepts for the cats in the early seasons. Like there's a point where Lister's reading a cat book, and you have to sniff the book to get the words. So it's like, well, what if Cat does have a name, but you have to spell it? You have to be a cat, and you have to smell him to know his name.
And like a mermaid is a fish head and human legs, and because the other way round.
The other way round is the stupid way round.
Now you've pointed it out. Yeah, actually.
Yeah. You've read the books, haven't you, Tallulah?
Yeah, a while ago now, but
because the authors did. Was it both authors, or was it just like Rob Grant?
Oh, I can't remember offhand. I'll have to look it up.
I know it must have been like the 90s, because I was like reading them at uni, because I had at least one uni friend who was Dave Lister, because he could fall asleep anywhere. And I would just remember that as a line from the book.
Yeah.
Because there's 3.
That's all I can remember.
I think they did 3. And I know we've got at least 2 of them.
I know I've read 2. I don't think I've read the 3rd.
Because there's Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
Back to Reality. which is a more dramatic version
Yeah.
of the actual script for the episode Back to Reality.
And there's one set in the Backwards universe
And
as
Backwards,
well.
yeah, which is
and
where
I know I've read that one.
Yeah, and Backwards kind of loops back everything round.
Yeah.
Because they conclude the story in the novels, don't they?
Yeah.
They actually bring him back to Earth and have him with Kachansky and everything like that. And it's you get the feeling a lot.
He goes into the Backwards universe to de-age himself, so it'd be the right age for marrying Kachansky.
So I think
you tied it all up in a nice little bow, back then.
Yeah, well, because it's like a lot of these early plot threads that they were kind of dropping for this bigger mythology that then obviously disappeared at some point. Like the episode, is it Status Leak, where they go back and meet. And he finds out that Kachansky's actually married to another version of him.
Yeah.
You know, and
who drinks wine?
Drinking wine. I said always wine. I love Lister.
Yeah.
Great. Love his accent.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one from the original episodes then, and the shortest lived of the originals is Holly. Because who's actually played by two actors, because there's Norman Lovett, who plays him in Series 1, Series 2, Series 8, and Promised Land, and then a couple of guest bits in Series 12 and Series 7. And then Hattie Hayridge, who plays the character for Season 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Which is also another one of those great things, like you were saying, you know, the show's so woke, imagine if they did it today, you know, they'd have a trans character who changes gender halfway through.
Yeah.
And yeah, Holly's the ship's computer who's gone computer senile.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Was only supposed to be a voice.
Yes.
And I think he had to push
to
be on screen.
Yes. I think his agent pushed for it more than him.
Yeah.
Was played by Jane Leaves from Frasier, Daphne from Frasier in the American version.
Okay.
With her actual English accent, not her Manchester accent, like her actual quite posh RP accent.
I thought that was the accent she had in Frasier.
No, in Frasier she's got like a faux northern.
Yeah, but it's not Manchester.
No, that's what an American thinks is Manchester.
Yeah, that's what she amalgamated together to sound northern English that Americans can understand.
Yeah.
It's like when her brother comes in, played by Anthony LaPaglia, and he does not sound anything. Like
off on a tangent here, but her ex-love interest, who actually says "lovely."
Yeah.
Lovely.
The Dick Van Dyke School of English.
Yes.
Anyway, that's a different podcast.
It's a different show. I do like Frasier. Maybe we should watch Frasier again. But yes, I like Holly. But the reason they wrote Holly out, I mean, first of all, Norman Lovett left the show because he just had a kid and had moved, I think, and didn't want to travel down to London where they were filming. And then back every day, which I can kind of understand. And then Hattie Hayridge, they actually wrote out of the show because they found that she wasn't getting a lot to do because a lot of the exposition was now being given to Kryten.
Yes. Yeah.
Who we will get to in a minute anyway.
I did find in later seasons that some of Holly's lines, when it was Hattie Hayridge, were just delivered as one-liners. And there was almost like a pause for laughter. Yeah. Like the one that always springs to mind is, you know, in the Backwards universe.
Yes.
Where she says, I'm going to need more data to figure out what year it is.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, what kind of data? She says, well, this year's calendar might be nice.
Yeah.
That feels so one-line zing, you know, oh, what a zinger.
Yeah. Although I do think...
first Holly actually got to do, you know, we are talking, you know, April Fools, we are talking Jape of the Century, you know, and had a whole episode around them.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than, like you say, just the one.
Well, a couple of episodes around them, like Queeg and things like that as well.
The Queeg one,
Yeah. Although White Hole, I think, is a very good Holly-focused episode that comes for Hattie Hayridge, where they play pool with planets and they make her really intelligent.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's focused around her even when she's not on the screen. because she cuts her runtime down, so then she disappears throughout the episode, but it's still very much about Holly.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I do think visually Hattie Hayridge is so funny. Like she just the sort of the subtleties in her expressions, the fact when someone shoots at her, she ducked down off her screen, so it was a blank screen.
Yes.
Or
she ducked from the simulator
where she gets drunk and she's got the tiara on squint.
Yeah.
Yes.
And visually she's so funny, but I'm not.
Or
so
the
keen
fainting with Ace Rimmer.
Yeah.
Which was actually Hattie Hayridge's idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was actually her idea to faint like that.
Yeah.
One of my favourite ones is when they're going for the fishing trip and then she turns up on the screen with a fishing hat on.
Yeah. Oh,
who woke him up?
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, even though she was in it for longer, I always think of Holly as being Norman Lovett.
Mm. I would like to see Hattie Hayridge come back, though.
Yeah.
I think I did like her as Holly.
Yeah.
I don't know. There is something about Norman Lovett's line delivery which is just great.
There's emergency going on.
Yeah.
Still going on.
It's the dour, it's the deadpan.
Yeah.
And like you say, he had the facial expression, but it wasn't kind of the zany humour you're talking about. He was very subtle, and it would just be a head tilt or eyebrows, and and it was just a touch.
Yeah.
But
Gordon Bennett.
Yeah.
he could do quite a lot with very little.
Yeah.
He's back kicking bottom or
Yeah.
He's very quotable, is Holly. Very, very quotable.
Yeah.
He appreciate what you've got, because basically I'm fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That was a friend at university. That was their screen name on MSN Messenger. For those who remember MSN Messenger.
Wow. Well, you're showing your age now, love.
But yeah, Holly had to go.
I'm younger than Red Dwarf, just saying.
Yes. Although there's one episode where Holly is still around, and they could be part of the story on Red Dwarf, but they're not in the episode, which stands out quite glaringly, especially because we've recently gone back and rewatched it. And that's Quarantine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Holly,
I
think, might be in quarantine early on.
Yeah.
But isn't in quarantine later when they're actually in the quarantine bay.
Yeah.
Because obviously she would warn them about the fact that Rimmer's become ill.
Yeah.
But doesn't.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And especially because she is quite... I don't want to say the voice of reason, but like in Despair Squid, where she's like, hello, you're hallucinating.
Yes. Yeah.
But I suppose...
I mean, I guess it is one of those things where it's like, that is just such a good episode that for all the times I've watched it, that's never occurred to me.
No.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so busy enjoying it.
I mean, I don't want to poke holes in Quarantine. Quarantine is one of my favourite episodes from probably my favourite season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that when we watched it back, I was like, where's Holly throughout all this?
You could always headcanon it that like Rimmer switched her off. Rimmer decided that she needed quarantine, and the version of Quarantine is to switch her off.
According to the space directives, because that's where it all came from.
You could also argue that maybe Holly can't access the quarantine bays because quarantine.
Well, yeah.
Well, yes. What if it's a hollow virus?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
For anybody that hasn't watched the show, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, bit of time left on this section then, before we have to pause the recording again, because we can only record in half-hour chunks.
And we
Kryten.
Kryten.
So we'll do. Kryten appears in series 2 in a self-titled episode.
Yes.
As a one-off, played by David Ross.
Yeah.
And then comes back later on as played by Robert Llewellyn.
Yeah.
Yes.
In series 3.
Yeah.
And
So Dave
helps
helps him break his programming and rebel and have human emotions, but then it's like, well, actually, this is a really good character and a good dynamic, so let's just bring him back. And they got crashed and reset, and it didn't.
They do that really fast Star Wars style text crawl to just sum up everything between series 2 and 3.
Yeah. So anyway, he's back as he was. You know, just like any other sitcom that goes back to the beginning and forgets everything that's happened in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, now he's a prissy, preening maid.
Yeah, and my absolute favourite character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic for exposition,
Mm.
for explaining everything to the dummies.
Yeah.
In the spaceship with him and in the audience.
Yes.
See, we actually differ a bit over Kryten, because there's a point where me and Tallulah were both like, starting not to like Kryten, but you were like, no, I love him.
But yeah,
which is
season
series 7,
when he's jerk-ass Kryten.
Yes, when Kachansky comes on board.
Yeah,
but that's when you like him the best, isn't it?
Well, that's, if anything, that is a series that explores the human emotion of jealousy.
Yes.
And Kryten is really nailing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, having the full human experience. We've seen the petty, we've seen the OCD, we've seen lying and
swearing.
And swearing. And then we get to see jealous and insecure.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, it's quite fun.
There are whole seasons where it's a particular kind of humour, and I like it. It's the whole Space Corps directive and correcting.
Yes.
I don't mean to correct you, Mr. Rimmer,
no officer
you are my
shall
superior.
Appear, what is it?
But
no
you're
officer
wrong.
shall appear in a court wearing a ginger toupee.
Yeah, well, I was going to say about the Space Corps directives, because the Space Corps directives come up in Quarantine. Like, well, they've come up before then, because Kryten keeps quoting them.
Yeah.
Like when they're out and about on Starbuck going to missions, he keeps quoting them as like a way of sort of putting Rimmer in his place, because Rimmer's forgotten them. Then in Quarantine, Rimmer asks for them.
Yeah, has anybody actually seen them?
Yeah, because he gets all uppity about it. Gets given them, and then reads them. And then that becomes part of the canon, that Rimmer actually has read them.
Yeah.
Because Rimmer then starts quoting them.
Yeah.
But the joke becomes that he misquotes them.
Yeah.
Like he'll quote the wrong line, and then Kryten will come in with some ridiculous thing, which is apparently a Space Corps directive.
Rimmer is the
no one shall give a training session while standing on their head, or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Rimmer is the anal kind of individual that will read the instruction manual, but still can't actually program the computer, that piece of equipment. And then somebody else who he feels is his inferior actually understands it better than him, and that's just a fantastic,
that's
being
just
able to drive Rimmer insane by being polite and accurate.
Yes.
But one of the things I like about Kryten as well is just how, if you need him to serve a particular role in a story, then you can have it, we've removed this chip, or we've put on this spare head, or, we've removed the guilt chip.
Yeah, or change this head for this spare head.
And so it's like...
head.
So it's like it can be a plot device, but not a plot, because there's a reason why it's like that. It's not, what do they call it, Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. And he gets some good episodes as well, I think. Like Camille, I think, is a very, very good episode where he falls in love with, like, the pleasure gelf?
Yes.
Who they all see differently.
Yeah.
Although Cat seeing the pleasure gelf as himself, like, it's meant to be your ideal mate, so Cat sees himself.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But,
chef's kiss for that.
Yeah. Hey, buddy! But yeah, so that's amazing in and of itself, and it's a really good episode. It's an episode they actually moved up. They made it the season opener because they thought it was a better season opener. And then they follow that with I think it is later that same season, don't they have DNA? Might even be the next episode where he becomes human.
Yes.
They find that ship that like rewrites them, and he becomes human.
Yeah. Do you think that was a break for Robert Llewellyn not to have to wear all the prosthetics?
Probably, yeah.
That could not have been easy.
One thing I find quite funny, if you watch the modern shows as well, it's because Robert Llewellyn has obviously put weight on, and so Kryten is now bigger.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's never explained, it's just a thing.
Yeah.
because obviously they're all older men now.
Yeah.
You had slight upgrades in his face and through different seasons, and slightly more chiseled head.
Yes.
Shaped like a half tube pencil rubber.
Yes, or a very weird novelty ice cube.
Yeah, or an amusing sculpture of mashed potatoes. He has some of the best, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I want to call them extended metaphors, but they're not really, but I can't think what else to call them. Or his exclamations, like, spin my nipple nuts and send me to Alaska.
Yeah. They kind of... They clearly have a lot of fun writing Kryten, I think. And I think it shows, because, he is one of the better ones. And I think it's good having them as the core four.
Yeah.
I think Cat, Rimmer, Lister, and Kryten, I think, makes sense as the core four.
Yeah.
Boys from the Dwarf.
Yes. Doing the hand signal.
Yeah.
Yes.
But a black hole is a huge impacted star. It's millions of miles wide. It's massive. Why didn't you see anything on the radar screen?
Well, the thing about a black hole, its main distinguishing feature is it's black. And the thing about space, the colour of space, your basic space colour, is it's black. So you're supposed to see her.
But 5 of them. How can you be ambushed by 5 black holes?
It's always the way, isn't it? We've been in deep space for 3 million years and there hasn't been one. Then all of a sudden, 5 of them turn up.
So we've got one real main character left to talk about, which is Kochanski.
Yeah.
What's everyone's thoughts on Kochanski?
I actually liked her. And I know a lot of people really, really disliked her once she came in season 7.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's because in some ways I am a bit of a Kochanski. Like, I've got impossibly neat handwriting and can remember the annual rainfall of Titan.
Yeah.
1.5 inches. But I know a lot of people found her insufferable.
I think...
The whole point of that character, though, is to be insufferable. She was just a different kind of insufferable to Arnold.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she had to be.
Yeah.
But, I mean, starting off, going back to the beginning, Claire Grogan.
Yeah, because there's 2 different Kochanskis, isn't there? There's Claire Grogan, who was like bit parts throughout seasons 1 to 3, I think it is, and then reappears briefly in season 6 for Sirens.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. And then when they actually wanted to bring Kochanski in as a main character, they decided that Claire Grogan was too old.
Yeah.
Despite the fact she still looks amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's in her 60s now.
Yeah.
She still looks incredible. She's only a couple of years younger than the main cast.
Yeah.
But they decided to cast Chloe Arnett, who is 9 years younger than the others, I think.
Yeah.
And Claire Grogan, obviously Scottish.
Yeah.
Chloe Arnett, not.
No.
Yeah.
Speaks with a very RP accent.
Very clommy.
Yeah.
But still says she grew up in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Just doesn't sound Glaswegian at all.
Yeah, well, not Motherwell or the Gorbals. She was on, she was from the west side of town.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because Kochanski appears early on, but then obviously they changed the relationship between Lister and Kochanski. And I think it's roughly series 3 where that sort of becomes confirmed that they did have a relationship.
Yeah.
And then obviously that leads to Stasis Leak, where they go back and get married.
Yeah.
And she has quite a prominent role in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she only appears in a handful of episodes.
Yeah.
It's always this kind of a supporting role.
Yeah.
And she's used more as a plot device for Lister and a motivation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so she's a love interest that just isn't around.
Yeah.
And his purpose for wanting, his dream for his life. But part of me now, as I'm pondering, is like, did they do the standard thing at the beginning of, they fridged her But I mean, they did that with the whole human population.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of, yeah. Because she is used as Lister's motivation to a point.
Yeah. And it's that thing of she's dead, but I'm still going to get back to her, and and her death is my purpose.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if it is a fridging example, because a fridging example, I mean, from how I experience it from comics, is it's usually done to create tragedy or like a revenge motivation in the hero.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas a lot of Lister's motivation around Kochanski is finding a way to bring her back or to get back to her.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Like, so it's a very different kind of motivation. Yeah. He's trying to...
But she was there, like you say, she was pivotal, but she was also very distant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a supporting role.
Yeah.
I think even in the season 1 and season 2 episodes that she appears in, she's not really... You know, I mean, obviously this is before they altered their relationship, but she doesn't really have much interaction with Dave.
Yeah.
Like, she directs him to Captain Hollister in the first episode, and there's like a bit of witty, like flirty banter between them, which you can read in a few different ways, and still works with the retcon, because you can, you know, maybe they are still interested in each other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then obviously the Christine that comes in later on is very, very different again.
Yeah. I think once she comes back in season 7, I should say series 7. I keep saying season, but it's series 7, isn't it?
Yeah, season is very much an American thing, because American TV does go on for longer. Yeah. Series is a British term. But I'm so used to saying season with a lot of modern shows that it just keeps slipping.
When they bring her back for series 7, it sort of greatly changes Lister's motivation, because up until this point she was almost the unreachable goal. It was a pining and unrequited love. Once she comes back, they're friends.
Yeah.
And it's like at first he you know, wants to romance her, but as it goes along, they do become friends, and she becomes less of a plot device and more of a character in her own right.
I like the way she's brought in, because I've said already, you know, it's all male cast, and that worked for a good while, but bringing her in was refreshing in the humour it brought with her of, you know, I live in a boy house.
Trainers in the fridge.
You know, trainers in the fridge, and I just want cottage cheese with pineapple and a bath.
See, I do think...
Having grown up with 3 younger brothers, I identify with
Yes.
Yeah. I think the thing is as well, Red Dwarf is very much written by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. Like, they write pretty much every episode through seasons 1 to 6.
Yeah.
And then most of those episodes are directed by Ed Bye. So there's a very singular voice behind Red Dwarf, and it's a very male voice, which works because it's a show with men.
Yeah.
But with Kochanski, they do get other writers in. Like, a lot of the episodes in Series 7, I mean, part of it was probably because Rob Grant had left and now everything was Doug Naylor on his own. But also, they do get other writers in. And some elements of it do write Kochanski very well. And I can't remember if there were any female writers, but it really wouldn't surprise me if there were.
Yeah.
Because... You know, like you were saying, the whole, you know, is it Duck Soup, that particular episode where she's complaining about just her situation?
Yeah, with the pipes that squealocal when they shouldn't reek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, she just wants a bath and not to be surrounded by boys.
Yeah. But I don't know, because a lot of people say, oh, she's bossy and she's insufferable, and...
So is Rimmer.
So is Kryten.
Yeah.
Which is why the two of them clash so much.
It's, you know, they clash, but in the way that Rimmer clashed with Kryten, it was, the very polite, but actually you've got it wrong. They would clash because she would actually know the rainfall of wherever, and she could actually say, well, well, let's do this manoeuvre because it's really stupid to fly away really quick unless you've got a bomb.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we haven't got a bomb. Yeah, I know. So, but why are we flying away? So we must have a bomb. And,
that was clever. I did like that one.
But that's the kind of thing Kryten would have come up with.
Yeah.
In previous seasons.
Yes, and now it's Chris coming up with it.
Yeah, and like I said, so that allows for, rather than the dynamic between the two of them being a battle about superiority and feeling inferior, it comes back to that. Now it's about Kryten's insecurity and jealousy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
And I suppose as well, part of the different dynamic as well, because we mentioned that Kochanski comes back, but she doesn't really, because the Kochanski that we get in Series 7 is a parallel Kochanski.
Yes, and that's what's so clever about it, because, yes, it's not the woman he fell in love with.
Yeah.
No, but she comes from a parallel reality where she went in stasis.
Yeah.
And then Dave was brought back as her hologram.
Yeah.
And so her and her Dave have a relationship.
Yeah.
Because he was soft light for so long. Yeah. So then they actually...
He even enjoys shopping for shoes.
Yes, which she says.
Yeah.
But because he was soft light for so long...
Yeah.
That he was able to empathise with her in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then became hard light.
Yeah.
Which allows them to have a relationship.
Yeah. So you finally get this person there that's been like the background love interest, and then there's like,
and she's actually in love with Dave, but not this Dave.
But there's no real desire for me as a viewer to ship this, because I'm like, your version was so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, like as she describes him.
Yeah.
I bet he can even play the guitar.
Yeah. And so it removes that standard element from a lot of programs of will they, won't they, and it's like, well, yeah, they really shouldn't, and I really don't want them to.
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because and like I said when I was talking about Dave, his motivation is to get her home.
Yeah.
Because she ends up stranded in their universe, so he's trying to get her home until it gets to a point where he can't, because then he gets infected with epideme and loses his arm, and then she wants to help him through that, which changes everything. And then obviously they get Red Dwarf back.
And another thing that has just dawned on me is really they can't end up together because technically she's his mum. So in this universe, she is his mother.
Yeah, well, we didn't touch on that earlier on. We discussed Lister. That's like one of the big time travel things.
Yes. Spoilers, maybe.
Yeah.
Dave is his own dad.
Yes.
Is he though? Because it's kind of like it's implied to be himself. So unless he's diluting himself each time.
But he refers to himself as his own dad, doesn't he? One of the brilliant episodes where he does a Father's Day.
Yeah, that's in Series 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very good episode. That's one of my favourites from the modern era. Because he gets blind drunk and just gives himself tough love.
Yeah.
Then can't remember what he's done.
But
it's that paradox thing, and then so
and it's like a holding pattern for the human race, almost. I think is how they describe it in the episode.
It's
a Roboros. Rob or Ross.
Yeah.
That's what he thought his name was. Rob or Ross.
So why did he get called Dave?
I don't know. And he references a nan earlier on. Like he says he lived with his nan.
Yeah.
Who we see a picture of, and it's basically Lister with a white wig.
Yeah.
I mean, I always imagined that, that was like some foster carer.
Probably.
But too old. You're not calling me, calling me mum, or everybody called her.
Everyone called her Nan.
Yeah.
Like a classic, like
Nan as in nanny.
I was thinking more like a lot of the the sort of the Caribbean immigrant families that I used to
Auntie.
know in London.
You get a lot of aunties.
A lot of aunties
Yeah.
and or nans when they reach a certain
Yeah,
age, and they are the nana, and
Yeah.
they're everyone's nana.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, the one thing I did notice when we watched it back, though, when you get to series 8, I do think Chris doesn't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
But then I also think that's true of the Cat and Kryten as well.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the episode Kryten TV, Kryten doesn't really get much to do.
Yeah.
And Cat and Chris are mainly used as like supporting players.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an element where they try to use Chris for Cassandra, where it's like Rimmer's going to sleep with her and Lister's going to catch them, which means Lister's going to kill Rimmer.
Yeah.
But obviously that's all engineered by the AI to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that's also because Series 8 was focusing on the relationship between Rimmer and Lister.
Yeah.
Like you get a lot of the classic bunk scenes again, which sort of harken back to Series 1 and 2.
Yeah. And you've got lots of other things to explore because you've got Red Dwarf back and the crew back.
Yes.
And there's different kinds of story arcs that they've never been able to do before. But those are some of the reasons why it's why I don't like season 7 and 8 as much.
Yeah.
Like I've said, because it's gone away from the basics, because they had bigger budgets and they threw more money at it, and it was created to look more sci-fi,
and it wasn't filmed in front of a live audience,
and it wasn't filmed in front of a live audience. So
they I think they did the How I Met Your Mother thing, where they recorded it and then assembled the episode and then screened the episode and recorded the reaction that way.
Okay, yeah. But so I guess one of the reasons I like Kachansky in season 7 is because that's much more character driven and character based, and back to the basics of the earlier seasons where it's a couple of people in a room having a conversation.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be a funny one.
Well, I mean, season 6 and series 7, they're all stuck on Starbug as well.
Yeah.
Where, although series 7 does get very cinematic in some moments, like you get a lot of camera angles which aren't traditional sitcom camera angles.
Yeah.
It's not, this is filmed in front of a live audience. We have to put the camera here so that the audience can see the actors and things like that. There's an element. I think it is the Epideme episode where the zombie sort of crawls into bed with Lister.
Yeah.
And it's like it's filmed quite close up down to Lister, and then when he gets punched, he ends up on the floor, and the camera's moving around with them in the action.
Yeah.
And it's like you wouldn't have got that in a previous season.
No.
Yeah. No, I know what you
know, it was very much a single camera show almost.
I have just thought of one thing, and it's top of the head, so it might not make complete sense, but Kachansky in series 7 and series 8 is very interesting because she says right in one of the early episodes she had all the breaks. Perfect CG school, perfect CG friends, pony called Trumper, all this sort of thing. The academy, rich parents. She still ended up in the same situation as Rimmer.
Yes.
She's still on
same situation as Lister,
But no, as
all
Rimmer...
the things that Rimmer believes...
held him back
because he was denied them.
Yeah.
And she still ended up on Starbug with 2 sets of clothes, a fridge full of trainers and pipes which squillocal when they shouldn't reek.
Yeah.
Yes, but she is also an officer.
Yeah.
Which he isn't. Because she's the navigation officer.
Yeah.
Who can't tell left from right, apparently.
Yeah.
However, it's one of those where she still got all the breaks. She was still an officer. By season 8, she was still in the brig.
Yeah.
She had it all.
Yeah.
So, she ended up in the same situation as Rimmer, and she had more to lose.
I mean, we'll come to...
Yeah.
I mean, series 8, we kind of touched on it as well, where they bring the crew back.
Yeah.
But it's also a very different crew to what we see early on.
Yeah.
Because the crew we see in season 1 is Lister's mates.
Yeah.
And Hollister and Todd Hunter. And that's really it.
Yeah.
And Todd Hunter doesn't come back in series 8. Hollister does.
Yeah.
But not Todd Hunter, who's like first officer, isn't he?
Kind of almost replaced by Ackerman.
Yeah. and Ackerman becomes in charge of the brig, because
Yeah.
after the 3-part Back in the Red that opens season 8, they all end up in the brig,
Yeah.
like permanently for the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
They're in the brig, and they end up joining a group called the Canaries,
Yeah.
which is like
Yeah.
first response almost,
Yeah.
to go and investigate derelicts, like kind of a Suicide Squad thing, you know, prisoners working off their sentence kind of thing. Almost.
And most of them are crackers in some way or another, like Kill Crazy.
Yeah, one of them is called Kill Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Kill Crazy, though. I think he's quite funny. Maybe because I like the actor anyway. Like, he went on to be in EastEnders, and I quite liked him in that.
Yeah.
But because you've got those different dynamics, haven't you? But like you say, you're back to a smaller set, but you've got some elements that have changed with the filming. You've got some aspects, but then you could still have, basically all these Canaries. It's a few people in one room, in one location. So it's going back to the basics and the elements that did work.
Yeah, and like the bunk room scenes and things like that. And the Scutters came back.
And that's when, if I'm right, Kat's back to being funny, not just dumb.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I think because they were using him less, they tried to make it count.
Yeah, he got more of the zingy one-liners we expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of awkward situations as well, like where he was trying to act tough with that prisoner.
Yes.
and ended up, the prisoner was just like, oh no, anyone who talks to me like that must be awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, like make Kat his prison boyfriend.
Yeah, trying to get beat down and ends up in running the prison. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's a different crew, because Lister's mates that we see earlier on are Chen and Peterson and the other one that I can never remember the name of. And Peterson is obviously played by Mark Williams, who by this point was a much bigger name.
Yeah. He was in Harry Potter by this point, wasn't he?
Quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah. What is the purpose of a
Yes.
1999. He probably would have been getting ready for Harry Potter, if not filming it already.
Or having done the Far Show.
Definitely done the Far Show.
Or still,
101 Dalmatians was around that time as well, I think, which he was in.
He was a busy guy.
Yeah, he was in that. Him and Hugh Laurie as Horace and Jasper, they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Tangents, us.
Yeah.
And obviously he went on to do Doctor Who as well, so he's great. Love him. But obviously he doesn't come back in Series 8. You get Chen briefly.
Yeah.
Who again is another actor who became bigger in the intervening years. Another like British comedy actor.
Part of me wonders, and again this is just my brain running on, could that be because the actors would have looked too old? Because if you think about it, they were resurrected from season 1. So by this point...
That was my first thought. There's a very practical element there. But there's also, you've got to think, because if they came back, Dave would not be hanging out with Arnold.
That's true.
You would not have the hijinks and the capers between the two of them, because he's like, oh yeah, you're a weasel, don't have to spend any time with you now, going off with the mates. And that's it, the dynamics gone.
They put him in the brig to get him away from them.
A very good word actually for Series 8. Series 8 was all about hijinks.
Yeah.
Like the two of them were just causing trouble.
Well, it's like the opening scene of Series 8 in Back to the Red is that bunk scene where he's trying to get Rimmer to say something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a very classic Red Dwarf scene.
Yeah.
Of just Lister deliberately trying to wind Rimmer up.
Yeah.
And
it's going back to that thing of it's sci-fi, but it's a sci-fi British sitcom.
Yeah.
And the hygiene, I suppose it's quite traditional British farce.
Yeah.
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 There's a lot of elements of British farce, like even from the beginning, like things like Confidence and Paranoia, for example, where it's like it's exploring the human condition that science fiction tries to do, but they do it with like a weaselly paranoia guy who's like, oh, is that a urine stain on your trousers? And Mr. Confidence, who talks like a game show host. And they're literally personified. Lister's confidence and his paranoia literally personified.
What do you mean they're dead? Cha cha cha.
I killed him.
But I do think that by series 8 it gets like bits of it can be silly.
Yeah.
Some of it, like with Cassandra, that whole thing with the future and predestination, that was clever.
Yeah.
But Kryten TV, where he wrecks Mr. Ackerman's quarters and then has to put them back again because of the appeal for him to have strings on his guitar.
Yeah, although I did
silly.
like the twist that the appeal was about his strings on his guitar, not about actually ending his sentence.
Yeah,
and Rimmer thought it was the latter.
Yeah.
So was being really good
about
it.
Yeah.
But, you know, some of it does veer into the silly a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that is... if it's always been like that and I'm just misremembering, because you tend to remember the standout episodes, which were the ones people would describe as clever.
Yes, and I think there is a lot of clever in early Red Dwarf, and there's also a lot of heart in early Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking silly, and I'm just remembering some kind of a polymorph thing that turned into a shish kebab and ended up in Dave Lister's underwear.
Yes.
So,
ended up becoming his underwear and then shrank.
And then shrank, that's it. And then Kryten's trying to get them off.
Yeah.
Trying to get the boxes off. So, yeah, the silly was there.
Yeah.
The silly was always there.
Yeah.
Definitely. I get what you mean, though. I think... I think when you compare
hijinks.
Yeah. But I think you have episodes like Marooned as well early on, for example, where you've got Lister and Rimmer stuck on that planet together in Starbug and end up with that sort of two-hander between them where they're trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And, you know, they talk about burning the last things that they own. And, you know, that's quite an emotional episode and is doing a lot of sci-fi stuff and character development. Or what's the one in series 2 that I'm thinking of where Thanks for the Memory, where he gives Rimmer the memory of a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they're missing days and they have to replay the tape and everything like that because it's like, what happened? How was my leg broken? Yeah.
Aliens.
Yeah. And it's like some of those thoughtful episodes I think did kind of taper off as it went on.
Yeah.
I think there were still moments, definitely.
Yeah.
But
I suppose as well, thinking about it, season 7, a lot of it was like where they're going to Jane Austen land.
Yeah.
And Kryten comes in a tank and says, "I said dinner's ready." Like, that's silly.
It is.
Yeah.
But then you also get with that some of the moments like with Stoke Me A Clipper.
Yeah.
Where you get that quite or Blue, where you get the quite touching goodbye between Rimmer and Lister, and then you also get Blue where he's feeling bad about the fact that Rimmer has left.
Yeah, and his conversation with Kachansky about why he might be missing him, and he was brought back to keep him sane. And before they do the ridiculous bit. And Kryten reminds him of all the things he hates.
Yeah.
With the Rimmer Munchkin song. Yeah.
Arnold Rimmer, more reliable than a garden strimmer. And now you're going to be singing that all night, dear listeners.
Stuck in your brain for days.
Put so much emphasis on the rim. When you say my name, Rimmer.
No, that's how he wants him to say it, Rimmer, rather than.
How do you want me to say it? Rimmer? You know,
But they can do farcical and funny, and then they can do the pathos all in the same episode.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. They become very streamlined at what they're doing and really channel into who the characters are, which I think means they can get to all that stuff a lot quicker. Yeah. Like an episode like Nanaki, which is the end of Series 7, and they bring back the dwarf.
Yeah.
But you do have some of those quieter moments with Lister and Chris, but then you also have the sillier moments where it's like they're hunting the nanobots and they're inside the laundry basket, for example. So yeah, and while you don't get as many big action spectacles as things like Polymorph or Sirens, you do get other stuff going on as well. Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask you guys about was gross out.
Mm.
Because I'm really not a fan of gross out humour. It just turns my stomach.
Mm.
But sometimes I think it is used so cleverly, I suppose, because there'll be a gross out that either follows or is followed by something very clever, or with a great moment of what was it you said, pathos.
Yeah.
And I just wondered what you guys' thoughts on that were.
Well, we could cover that in the next section.
Yes, we'll do that.
Check the music. It's magnificent. I never heard anything like it before. Oh, get a lung for that air, man. Makes it feel good to be alive. Everything about this ship is, well, it's divine. Hey, let's check the food. What did you order? Ultimate test. Pot noodle. I'll tell you one thing. I've been to a parallel universe. I've seen time running backwards. I've played pool with planets, and I've given birth to twins. I've never thought in my entire life I'd taste an edible pot noodle.
Okay, so gross out. What sort of thing do you mean by that then?
Well, for example, there's a few that spring to mind. For example, when Lister has the space mumps.
Oh, his head
explodes.
I love that.
What? I have to look away from the screen at that bit.
I always wonder if they use custard for that.
Yeah.
Oh.
It always made me think
BBC canteen custard.
See, it made me think of like the slime from like Get Your Own
Yeah.
Back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what it made me think of.
And the other one is in that immediately springs to mind is in Backwards, where the woman where she's like uneating her cake and undrinking her tea and she's spilling it all. Ugh.
I think the thing is with Backwards, because they were just rushing through the food shots, they're designed to look gross anyway. Because obviously when you rewind it, it looks even worse.
Yeah. It's just one of those where it springs to mind. The phrase that springs to mind is there any need?
Well, it's like,
is there any need to gross out your viewer?
Lister and Cat do the same thing when they undrink the pint. It's like it's going all the way down them and then comes back up.
And it's just I do think
the pie.
It does sort of decrease, I think, as time goes on. But yeah, some of the early seasons, some of it is just revolting. And some of it I can understand, like Lister has disgusting habits.
Yeah, like where they talk about his toenail clippings and things like that, and flossing with a guitar string or something at one point, and
his boots that smell like an orangutan's posing pouch, or where he pencil sharpens his fingernails down.
Oh, when he comes out of stasis and they're ridiculously long.
And like that sort of thing, I can understand it, but then some of it is just, for me personally, it's just too gross.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's because I'm really squeamish, so I don't
know. I mean,
I don't know. You're very quiet. What do you think?
I'm just it's sight humour, isn't it? And it's gross out humour. So it's another one of those things that it's easier to do with a small budget.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think slime is cheap.
Yeah.
Cheaper than bringing in guest appearances.
Yeah.
And different characters each week.
Yeah.
Although saying that, some of the creature effects they do are very good.
Yeah.
Like for the time and the budget.
Yeah.
Like one that springs to mind is
one. When in series 8 with the Birdman, where the dinosaur sneezes on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another way in where they went back to basics and the things that did work. And,
a
lot of people found funny. And, and it'll bring in your younger audience as well.
Yeah, I mean, Pete was
if you're appealing to different ages as well.
Yeah, I mean that episode, I'm not sure it needed to be a 2-parter necessarily, but especially because the main hook with the dinosaur is kind of resolved halfway through the second part.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the stuff at the first half of Pete Part 1, where it's like they use the virus to trim the potatoes and then it eats all their clothes and body hair.
Yeah.
That's quite funny.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say some of the creature effects, like, because obviously when they do Pete with the T-Rex, he's CGI. But like early on, for example, one that springs to mind is the Mutton Vindaloo Beast from DNA.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's quite a gross character model.
Yeah.
Like it's got bits falling off.
Slimy.
Clearly done with like liquid latex or papier mâché or something.
Yeah,
obviously
done bits.
Yeah, it's obviously
wobbly bits.
Yeah, it's obviously done cheaply.
Yeah.
But it's a good effect
Yeah.
for the time and budget. Like it's the sort of thing you could have seen on Doctor Who and got away with. Had Doctor Who already not ended by that point.
Yeah.
They must have got through so much KY jelly.
Yeah. Whereas like even like a year before, Polymorph is not a great effect.
No.
You know, Polymorph it's a giant puppet or the little puppet that moves itself around.
Yeah.
And they don't show it very much.
No.
Yeah.
Because they know it's not a good effect.
Yeah.
But the Mutton Beast is a much better effect. And then obviously they turn Lister into like the mini RoboCop with the bazookoid, which is great anyway. It's like Polymorph ripped off Aliens. So then they, not Aliens, Alien. So then they decided to do RoboCop a year later for DNA.
Yeah.
And that's also a good one for the gross out as well, because when he blows it up, you get the big explosion that they do, and then he gets covered in it and then starts eating it.
Yeah.
Because he made it out of his curry, so obviously it's a curry beast.
Yeah.
And he's like, this tastes really good. Just get a poppadom the size of Lake Michigan. We're fine.
I think a lot of it is now, as a lady of a certain age, I'm not the target demographic for the viewers at the time. And I think that might be a big part of it.
Oh, because you're not 18 to 30 anymore. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not, if you'll forgive me for being stereotypical, I'm not male. Because let's face it, the target audience back in the late 80s, early 90s for sci-fi would have been 18.
And also for comedy as well.
Yeah, would have been 18 to 30 male.
Yeah.
And I suppose you're also coming off the back of things like The Young Ones, because there's a lot of the Young Ones influence in Red Dwarf, and you can see it there.
Like Young Ones and Bottom were around at the same time, weren't they? Shortly before like Men Behaving Badly, that was a few years afterwards. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I'm just thinking there are a few times where you do get the audience like actually go like that, you know, and one that springs to mind is Sirens, where you've got the because they're like bug creatures, aren't they? That want to like suck your brain out with a straw. But then they disguise them. Like, doesn't she come on as like the weather girl or his bully's older sister or something like that, and tries to flirt with Dave, and then snogs him, and it's like they're having this big messy snog, and then it pans out, and he's like, no, he's kissing the giant bug thing, and kissing its like
gross
Procopsis. And that's where the audience does the groan, because it's all slimy and everything like that. It's so funny.
It's good.
So I suppose to answer my original question, then, that is necessary. Like the gross is necessary.
I think sometimes they use it sparingly enough that it works.
Yeah.
Because it's not just gross all the time. And like, for example, with like the space mumps, that's a built-up joke. Like we see it earlier on in the episode, so you know that's going to burst at some point, and they don't wait until the end of the episode to do it. They do it about halfway through.
One of the best bits of gross out is like in the first episode where he's
eating the crew.
Yeah, he's sticking his hand in all these different piles of dust and licking it. And
yeah. And it's like, what is this hole?
Yeah,
like,
Peterson.
Yeah. You've been eating half the crew.
Yeah.
Actually,
So it was there from the beginning. You were forewarned.
Yes.
You were just distracted by that everybody's dead, Dave, and that was
I can handle the dust. It's slime that makes me squeamish. Like, had they been puddles of slime?
Yeah.
They probably were a few million years beforehand. Well, dust is all that's left.
Yeah. Ooh.
Very neat piles of dust after 3 million years.
Yeah.
You know, not like someone from the props department's just gone and poured
Well, it's not.
piles of flour everywhere.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
it's not a breeze, is there, in space?
No. And no one's been walking around in it.
Yeah, well.
Although, where were the cats at this point? Because cats like walking
They were
through
all in the
dust
hold,
and then.
weren't they?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just thinking it would, millions of tiny little cat paw prints getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the generations went on. Bigger and more humanoid.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they're all so neat, because the cats ate them.
Yeah. Oh, I'll use them as litter.
Yeah.
Well, now you're being the gross one.
I know. Oh, where did that come from?
Stop it.
I've watched far too much Red Dwarf.
Can I talk about one thing that I quite like about Red Dwarf? Go on. I mean, that's what this whole podcast is about, But one thing I like, and I think it's one of the more clever things that makes it stand out as a science fiction, there's no aliens.
Yeah.
Everything we see comes from humans, comes from Earth. Like, the Gelfs are... because does that stand for like genetically engineered life form? Yeah, or the simulants, who are like rogue androids, and it's like there are no aliens at all.
Yeah, the only non-human is a cat that came from a human from Earth, from a human planet. Yeah,
from the pregnant cat that Lister got on Titan.
So it's not an Earth. Oh God, what?
It's not necessarily even an Earth.
It's not even an Earth creature. It's a Titan cat. Is it a Titan cat?
Well, it's an Earth cat, I would imagine, that was on the Titan colony.
Yeah.
But
anyway, it's.
So yeah, there are no aliens. There's even one of the later episodes they meet like God. I think it's like series 11, series 12. They meet God, and he actually laments the fact that he only put like intelligent life on one planet.
Yeah.
Because the last remaining vestiges of it is Lister and Rimmer.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's like I wasted.
Yeah.
Now, I think that comes from the writers, because it's Rob Doug
and Doug Naylor,
Doug Naylor. Terrible names.
Yeah.
But yeah, from the reading I did way back when, around it and the science behind it, and they have a very strong interest and passion for science. So it was, I imagine, comes very much from their very strongly held belief that we're the only ones in the universe.
Yeah.
We're the only species. We're the only planet that can sustain life. Because it's so
that we know about. Anyway.
And that's the premise they go from.
Didn't they also want to distinguish it from Star Trek?
Well, yeah, that makes sense as well.
Because obviously Star Trek, you have aliens with different funky makeups every week.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't got the budget, you can't afford that kind of, and then you just end up with, this alien's another human-looking thing, but with weird eyebrows.
With a funny nose, yeah.
But the other thing is, it can help keep the storyline and the focus and the scripts much tighter, because you're not getting distracted through different episodes and series with meeting this alien or that alien.
Yeah.
And why couldn't they just meet an alien race that had invented
interstellar warp travel?
Yeah. And when we do meet other characters, they're all, like I said, they all come from Earth anyway. But they're also, I mean, they do get good characters and good guest actors to come in. Like Jane Horrocks is Crane in the Holoship episode. I've got her first name, but I remember it's something awesome. Narendra or something like that. Nirvana Crane. That was it. And it's like, she's a great guest actor to have.
Because she's superb in whatever she does.
Well, yeah.
And Jenny Agutter has a brief role in one of the episodes as Kryten's creator, Dr. Mamet. And then obviously some of the actors, I can't even remember the names, but like the actor they get as the Inquisitor, or who just has this very commanding voice and presence. And the actor who plays the rogue simulant in the sort of grizzled old one in Series 7. It's like they get some very good guest actors, very good character actors in to do these roles. But the focus is always on the main cast, because it's not that sort of show where they are meeting everyone. It's a sitcom. It's not a science fiction show, despite the fact it's a science fiction comedy. They use the sci-fi premise to give them the situation to create the comedy with. Not to be serious with it.
You don't want the sci-fi getting in the way of that too much. By making demands on
and it's like they try and rationalize it. Things like the luck virus, for example, where it's like it's a science fiction concept, but it's also a simple premise, and it's a way of making a science fiction story out of something that's plausible, maybe. Or like the wax droids or things like that, where it's like it's the Wax World amusement park that's descended into civil war. Although the episodes like that, that's one of the episodes I actually hate, because Rimmer becomes insufferable in it. And I think it comes quite late in the show for that.
Yes.
Like, because he's got this whole thing with proving he's better than the evil dictators who are running the bad guy side, because obviously he worships them and he's studied their histories, like Napoleon and Hitler and all these others. And so he wants to prove he's better than them, but he ends up getting everyone killed. It's really insufferable.
Because he sees that as an absolute win. And can't see the irony of
the value of the life. And he's just got a whole planet of people, a whole planet of droids killed.
That's an episode that I will sort of happily, like, if it's on, I'll watch it, but it's not one that I would think, oh, I'll put this on to watch it.
It's not one I'd go back to on a rewatch. But
and again, it's because it doesn't feel particularly sci-fi. It's I think, it's very obviously, this planet just happens to look exactly like her.
Also, awkward fact I found out about the episode, the actor who played Elvis got arrested for sexual assault. Which also makes it uncomfortable to rewatch. But I think if you like Rimmer and you like those sort of self-contained episodes, two better examples exist in the show, because there's Rimmer World. It is Rimmerworld, where he clones himself. Which is in Series 6, and also Terraform. Where it's the planet that's all based on his fears and his mental state. Which is very clever.
So the death of charisma.
And it's tiny little gravestone.
Tiny little gravestone. And
honesty and integrity and things like that.
And all the frogs in the swamp of despair are saying, "Rimmer, you're useless."
So do you have any favourite episode? Like, if somebody was to say, I'm completely new to Red Dwarf, what are the best episodes to watch?
Series 5. Just watch all of Series 5. Start with Holoship, because it's great. Because Series 5, I think, has all of my favourite episodes. Because you've got Holoship, which is, like I said, you've got Jane Horrocks in a brilliant supporting role. Rimmer possibly getting the chance to live his dreams. But in his own smeggy fashion, he tries to cheat at it because he can't do it honestly. And just a very, very clever episode, very clever concept for an episode, I think. The Inquisitor, who is the character who's deciding whether they should all live or die.
Yes.
And they have to justify their place
Yeah.
in history, isn't it? Otherwise, they get to be replaced by an alternate version of themselves that never was.
Yeah.
Which again is a great concept. You know, the whole idea of like, oh, you know, the sperm that didn't make it could make a better you.
Yeah.
And it's like such a mind fuck of an episode, really. But then, of course, it's the fact they have to justify themselves to themselves.
Yeah.
Like the Inquisitor takes his mask up and it's them inside.
And it's
Yeah,
like the
justify
cat,
yourself, Smeghead. It's a bit existential, I don't know.
the cat thinks he's just perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the cat thinks he's perfect. Rimmer blames everyone else
Yeah.
for his faults. So
Yeah.
it's Kryten and Dave who end up having to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
Which is
Plot twist.
not what
Yeah.
you'd think
Yeah.
going into it.
Yeah.
You'd think
Yeah.
the egocentric ones
Yeah.
would be those two. Then you get Terraform, which, you know, Rimmer's psyche,
yeah.
and is clearly one of the more bigger budget episodes
Yeah.
that season. Quarantine,
Yeah.
which, you know, has Mr. Flibble and Rimmer with the holovirus, and is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you follow it with Demons and Angels, where they split the ship into the good half and the bad
Yeah.
half, and actually destroy the one studio model that they had of Red Dwarf.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, the shot where Red Dwarf
Yeah.
blows up, that
Yeah.
was the only studio model they had of Red Dwarf. They
Wow.
blew it up for that shot.
That's a sign you have faith in your product.
Well, yeah. Well, at one point, it was going to be the final season.
Yeah.
They didn't know if they were going to come back for Series 6, and then they did. And then, obviously, the final episode of that series is Back to Reality,
Yeah.
which is brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, comes up with the idea of Red Dwarf being a video game and the four of them being absolutely terrible at it.
Yeah.
And then gives us alternate versions of them as characters,
Yeah.
including Dwayne
Dwayne
Dibley.
Yay.
You know, where Cat is this awkward dork
Yeah.
who spends 4 years in a computer game.
Yeah.
And clearly he's the one that bankrolls it because it's his party.
Yeah, the Dibley party.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder, how does he know them all?
Yeah.
Because they're not exactly from the same...
Well, they make Lister and Rimmer brothers,
Yeah.
don't they? And Kryten becomes a police
He's a
officer.
traffic control cop.
Traffic control, cybernautics cop.
Yeah.
And then, like,
Excuse me.
Rimmer is a bum
Mm.
whose coat smells of yak urine,
Yeah.
apparently. While Lister is his brother, but is also, like, one of the highest people in the
He's a
fascist
fascist
society.
dictator, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's running the planet.
He's the like the president, basically.
Mm.
Yeah.
He's the Kim Jong-un
Yes.
who hasn't been seen for a few years.
Yeah. I forgot what it is, the term they actually call him, but it's really...
Supreme.
No, it's
It'll
like
come
Chief
to you.
Whisperer or
Yeah.
something like that. You
Yeah.
know, it's like they mentally reprogram people.
Yeah.
Like he reprograms people.
Not Inquisitor.
That is- No, not
No.
Inquisitor. 'cause
Is
that
it
was
just
over-
me, or would that world make for a really awesome series in itself?
Well, yeah, I think if they'd have
Yeah.
made a film of that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that episode could have easily been twice as long, spent way more
Yeah.
time in that alternate world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have watched it. It'd
Yeah.
been great.
Yeah.
And see that slow descent.
Yeah.
It's one of those where the budget probably hurts
Well-
them a bit.
Yeah.
Mm.
And again, the guest actor for that is someone who was in Twin Peaks
Yes.
as well. It's Harold from Twin Peaks.
Oh.
The Shut-In.
Yeah.
Stay
tuned for a Twin Peaks episode.
Well, I thought, my thought was, Timothy Spall.
Well, yeah.
And Timothy Spall as well,
Yeah.
who is great in it.
Yeah.
And obviously, then they use the concept of the video game to sort of
Mm.
spoof the American version
Yes.
by having these like gung ho
Yeah.
Americans who come in
Yeah.
for the yeah.
But my headcanon about why they were in there is because, like, the dictator character of Dave is, well, he's in hiding,
Yeah.
and he's brought his brother with him because his brother is a liability. And
Yeah.
if he doesn't put him in the game with him, he will snitch on him for a bottle of anything. And the other two are on his payroll.
Yeah.
And they're his spies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting that even in that future dystopia, they still have the Salvation Army. Because Dwayne Diddley has keys to the Salvation Army hostel in his luggage.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's not dystopian without a Christian group, is it? Let's be honest.
It's weird in like the first season and that they still have like cigarettes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's
they're smoking areas.
Yeah.
But
I think though, when it comes to
what
back to reality, it's fantastic. Like, it is a brilliant episode.
Yeah.
But I would say for a newcomer, it's not the best one to start with.
No, which is why I'd say start with do that whole series.
Yeah, like you said, they didn't know they were getting season 6.
Yeah.
So if you're ending on a season 5 and people watching this thinking this could be the last episode, and then oh my god, they're doing the sci-fi trope of it was all a dream.
Yeah.
And then nah, psych, we're not.
Yeah. Because it's a despair squid to try and get them to commit suicide.
You have been watching the real thing all along,
yeah.
And just ending it that way.
But yeah, I think if you were to recommend anything to someone who hasn't seen Red Dwarf, that's the series I would recommend. And that's even knowing that series doesn't reference some of the big ongoing plots, like Kachansky. Kachansky is, I don't think, even mentioned in that series.
Not until Back to Reality, anyway.
Yeah, she's mentioned in Back to Reality, but I think that's it.
No, actually.
And like I said, it's one where Holly isn't really used much. Like I said, she's not in quarantine. But I think every episode in that is brilliant. Yeah. Like, there's some episodes in other seasons where I'm like, I could skip that one.
Yeah.
But Series 5, I'll watch all of them.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the best one. Yeah. See, I don't know. What about you guys? What would you say?
Suggest to a newcomer would be Future Echoes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it still has the opening monologue from Holly.
Yes.
It's got
recaps you on everything.
Yeah. Plus, isn't that the one where he says, "I've got an IQ of 6,000, the same as 6,000 PE teachers"?
Probably, yeah.
It's got the 4 main characters, and it shows their interactions.
Yeah.
Shows their interactions. I say 4 main characters. Kryten's not there yet. But
but you've got Holly.
And it shows quite an interesting, because it's got the concept of the future echoes, and it shows like the high concept stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also got the sitcom comedy as well.
Yeah.
Also, thinking about it, that has a gross out moment where he sprays the shaving foam under his armpits and then wipes it on his face.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it was there from the beginning. You were right. So I think that's where I'd recommend a newcomer to start with. But I do agree, season 5 has
start with the end then, which is actually the first episode. Because I still think that's a very good episode. Like, it does hold up as an opening episode. It's very good.
I don't. It just feels a bit cliche to say, well, watch the first episode.
I think
to understand the whole idea and the whole premise.
Yeah,
it absolutely does what it's set out to do, what it needs to do. I mean, looking at it from a sci-fi perspective, and what they're trying to do, confidence and paranoia early on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is if you weren't going to just like start at the beginning and go all the way through to the end, that's a way of getting a taste of, this is sci-fi, but then it is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Or Me Too with the gazpacho soup.
Yes.
and having the double Rimmers.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
I wouldn't want to start anybody off with 2 Arnolds.
No.
One is enough. You know, one is too much.
I think the only argument I would have against starting with season 1 and 2, as good as they are, and they are good, is I don't think the show feels complete yet.
Yeah.
Because you still don't have Kryten.
Yeah.
And again, if you were to recommend, say, like one of the things I would say to recommend someone to start the show with now, if they've never seen Red Dwarf, if you've never seen anything of it, start with the new stuff that's on Dave. You know, start with series 10 and just go from there. Because it's going to catch you up on all the main plot points. But obviously to do that, you need to know who Kryten is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you could easily start with Backwards.
Yes.
Which is the opening of season 3.
Yeah.
And I think works very well as a good introduction to kind of, because you've got that opening text scroll which whizzes by really fast. Just say, this is what happened. But you don't really need to know it. Just get back to the show.
Yeah.
And then all the characters get reintroduced to you as it goes on. And then just go from there. Season 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, it is. Is it season 4? Another one you could start with is Camille, because it is a heavy.
And that's a Kryten focused one. Yeah.
Heavily Kryten focused episode.
And Rimmer is in his stupid Captain Scarlet uniform with the hat.
Yeah.
Howdy doodly do. How's it going? I'm Talkie. Talkie Toaster, your chirpy breakfast companion. Talkie's the name, toasting's the game. Anyone like any toast?
Look, I don't want any toast, and he doesn't want any toast. In fact, no one around here wants any toast. Not now, not ever. No toast.
How about a muffin?
Or muffins. We don't like muffins round here. We want no muffins, no toast, no tea cakes, no buns, baps, baguettes or bagels, no croissants, no crumpets, no pancakes, no potato cakes, and no hot cross buns, and definitely no Smeghead flapjacks.
Ah, so you're a waffle man.
So yeah, anything else you want to say about Red Dwarf for the anniversary? Or any other thoughts on the series?
Cliche as it sounds, I think it's inimitable.
Okay, yeah.
I think that between the cast, because let's face it, I can't imagine anyone else cast as these characters. So between the cast, the writing, the plot, and just I don't know how to describe it. Like the pacing, the timing, everything for the most part works. And even though there's some episodes that are a bit, there aren't any that I would say were truly bad.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it ever really jumps the shark.
No. I don't think there's any conkers.
No.
There's maybe some that I don't like as much. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Legion. I'm not a huge fan of the Wax Droid episode, which I can't remember what it's bloody called now. And, some of season 7 and season 8 are a bit more forgettable.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say there's any bad, overall bad episodes.
I think it's one of those, don't they say it's greater than the sum of its parts? Isn't that how the saying goes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, if you look at the American, I know I keep harping on about the American version, the American pilot.
Obsessed with the American version.
But some of the writing's the same, because I know they had some of the same writing team.
Yeah.
The characters on paper are the same.
Yes.
They bring Kryten in from the start, and of course he's
and they bring Robert Llewellyn in to play him as well, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's generally people's favourite character. And the bits that Kryten does are fun, they're the funniest bits in the show. But it just doesn't.
Is it one of those
work?
how they bring Richard Ayoade into the American it crowd? It's like the one character that is just very quintessential to what the show is. That you can't really adapt, so you have to bring the original actor over to do it.
And I think it's just one of those where, you could sit down and say, right, on paper we're going to write this, but you need everything to come together. And I think Red Dwarf, and it's not really aged.
No.
It's still pretty time. Some things like the smoking thing, and how everything's on cassette tape, and that's aged. But as a comedy in general, it's still funny.
Yeah, the comedy in it is pretty timeless.
Yeah,
and I think one of the things that always gets me, especially when you rewatch it, is you remember just how much there is in every episode. Like, this is a show that makes full use of its runtime and does a lot of stuff. Like, even something like Back to Reality, it starts with them exploring the Esperanto with the Despair Squid, and then goes, and they find things that are odd, and then goes back to the mad dash back to Red Dwarf, then not to Red Dwarf, to Starbug, then they flee on Starbug, they crash, they wake up, they have the scene in the reality suite where they're all waking up, what the hell's going on, and then they have the scene in the recovery lounge, and they find their new identities, then they have that, then they go on the run, then they do a whole car chase, but they have to act it out because obviously there's no budget, so they're acting out in the Starbug, which is great as well. And that was another one I was going to say about the Wax Droid episode, Meltdown. I remember the name, Meltdown. It's like, that was another one where it's limited by the budget, because they do things like they talk about the gallows where they've hung up, like, they bring Winnie the Pooh out for a firing line, and it's like Lister's describing it, because they can't show it because they don't have the budget to show it.
And they also don't have the copyright for Winnie the Pooh then.
Well, but they do this quite a lot with some stuff where it's like they'll describe something happening off screen. And
like
it's
the
like
planet shaped like Felicity Kendall's bottom.
Yeah, flew around that one a few times. But what was the saying beforehand? Not Meltdown. Back to Reality. Yeah, they do the car chase, and they're acting out a car chase while sitting on crates in Starbug.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to the dream.
Yeah.
And they're all planning on killing each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so much that happens in that episode. Like, there really is a lot of it. And it's only 25 minutes with credits. I think maybe half an hour, because it's a BBC show, so there's no advert break, is there?
Yeah.
So it's exactly half an hour.
Yeah.
And it just speeds through. There's so much going on.
But that could easily be like a film.
Yeah.
A full film.
Yeah. That idea could easily have become a film. And that's true of so many of the episodes. Like the episode with season 7 where he breaks into the game. I think it's Stoke Me A Clipper. And it's like, Stoke Me A Clipper is the one where Ace Rimmer comes back.
Yeah.
And yet, so you have this opening Bond-style sequence with Ace Rimmer fighting Nazis.
Yeah.
And then it goes straight into Lister going into the virtual reality game.
Yeah.
And wooing the Queen by cheating.
Yeah.
The Queen's played by Sarah Alexander. The King's played by Brian Cox, who is fantastic. And, it's obviously so much bigger budget, but there's all that going on before Ace Rimmer even turns up.
Yeah.
So there's 2 big, intense scenes. With so much happening.
What is that? What the phrase "cold open"?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, kind of.
It's like, it's not even. It's not even the main story. That's just the side bit we put in for funsies.
Yeah.
Couldn't fit it in anywhere else.
Yeah, we had this really, really good idea and couldn't make a whole episode, so just put it in.
Just put it in.
Yeah.
Because then obviously they use that because he uses the night later on to try and motivate Rimmer, doesn't he?
Yeah.
To take over Ace's role.
Yeah.
And it's so, there's so much in every episode, because Back to Reality and Stoke Me A Clipper, they're not exceptions. Every episode is packed.
One we haven't mentioned is Gunmen of the Apocalypse.
Oh God, yes.
The Dove program,
because that's another one where they're in a reality CGI.
It's the simulants, isn't it? They get attacked by rogue simulants first of all.
So then So he's just using it for Dave's just using it for sex, but then they
Yeah.
use the program to find a cure. So yeah, you've got rogue simulants and you've got this virus, and Kryten's got to find a cure. So he goes into this game, but then he's been killed by the virus before he can find a cure. So they've got to go in and save him.
And it's a Western program. They
so
do a
they-
Western
yeah,
spoof.
Is that the
Yeah.
one where they have where they put Kryten's eyes on their chin and they're pretending to know
Yes.
the human?
Yes, and
See,
yeah,
I am
I-
Tarkadal of the Vindaluvian
Yeah.
Empire.
See, that's not
and-
even
and-
really, like you were saying, it's not a big
Yeah.
part of the episode.
No.
but it's-
And yet it's something memorable from the
Yeah.
episode.
yeah. Lots. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, at the cons you'll get any reference to that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
People will get it.
yeah,
People
lots-
will
lots of
come in and do
people-
the Riviera Kids,
Yeah.
you know, as
Yeah.
Cat does his little
Yeah.
thing.
And lots of people doing cosplay just by sticking an eye on their chin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and licking it.
Yeah.
He licks his eye. I forgot about that. Oh, it's so weird.
Scum.
But like I
But,
said, this
yeah.
is every episode, even the earlier episodes, like Future Echoes. Future Echoes, they have like 6 different Future Echoes. They're all big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the others from series 1 and 2 that we've kind of skipped over, you know. I'm trying to think now.
I do get, with the earlier seasons, I get confused as what comes in what order.
Yeah, like Waiting for God. Okay, that's the one with the cat. And it's like,
yes.
it's all about the cat religion. And then it's like that whole bit with the cat priest is in that episode.
Yeah.
But it's like only 5-10 minutes towards the end of the episode. And it's so much, it's the big thing you remember from the episode, but it's really short part of the runtime for that episode.
Yeah.
Because there's so much leading up to it first.
Then Death of an Entire Religion, never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. You know, or the Better Than Life game, or Queeg, where it's like there's so much going on. Like Queeg has so many big memorable scenes.
Yeah.
Where there's just so much happening because you know, first of all, you have Holly being replaced by Queeg, but he gets replaced by Queeg because he endangered Lister, which happens early on.
Yeah.
So you've gone through a big chunk of the episode before Queeg even appears.
Yeah.
And then even when Queeg replaces Holly, they keep Holly around. You have several scenes with Holly.
Yeah. With his flat cap.
With his flat cap as the night watchman
that's
on
why
his little
you
TV
You
monitor.
can tell a man's been pensioned off because he had a flat cap.
Oh, I've got a flat cap now. Oh dear.
It's all downhill.
But yeah.
On a moped.
Not getting the moped. No. But yeah. There's just so much that goes on in every episode.
Yeah.
And I think that really works for it because it's like, yes, there's only 6 episodes, but there's so much every season because there's so much in each episode.
And it means that none of them feel like filler.
Yeah. And it's like you forget certain things are part of the same episode.
Yeah.
Like when you were talking earlier about Lister coming out of stasis and like sharpening his nails and things like that. That's in the episode Sirens because it's the opening of series 6.
Yeah,
which is
Sirens.
Sirens.
Yeah.
You know, or Emo Hawk, where it's like they get the polymorph that drains. Like the first polymorph drains their emotions, doesn't he? So you get Lister with no fear.
And Rimmer loses all his arrogance, doesn't he?
Yeah, Rimmer loses.
And Cat becomes prototype Dwayne Dibley, if I remember
Loses
rightly.
all of his poise and style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cat loses his vanity.
Yeah.
So becomes like a drunk. He turns into a hobo.
Yeah. I'm getting confused,
Yeah. And then in Emo Hawk, he sucks off Cat's bitterness and No, Rimmer's bitterness and Cat's cool.
That's yeah.
And he becomes, so you end up with Dwayne Dibley and Ace Rimmer.
Your memory for this stuff astounds me.
Yeah, this is why I do the podcast.
Yeah.
But that all comes after everything with the Gelf. Because they have the Gelf wedding.
Yeah.
And don't they go to the Gelf in the first place because they go back to the simulant ship? And like one of the simulants tries to attack them. So there's so much going on.
Isn't that when it's this the bedraggled simulant who sort of says don't trust simulants, and then when they get back to the ship it's been turned over?
Yeah. No, that's Series 7. That's the one. That's the rogue one with Abel, the one who's also Robert Llewellyn.
Flipping out! This is making my head spin.
There's so much. This is the thing. There's so much memorable stuff, and it's often quite a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, if there is one negative, it's because it can get confusing because there's certain things that people loved, so we need an excuse to bring it back. So
like Dwayne Dibley,
and like Arnold, like Ace Rimmer. And it's the different ways they've done that, and it's like, okay, was that episode or this episode, and like this,
yeah.
But I mean, that's one of the few drawbacks.
Yeah, I think if one of the problems is that they're doing some fan service.
Yeah.
I think the fan service, I think, gets a negative rep if people go, oh, fan service is automatically bad. I don't think fan service is automatically bad. I think it works on how you do it.
Yeah, and if it keeps the program going because people are watching, and if it's not what you want to watch, because it doesn't contain what you want to see, you will go and watch something else.
Yeah,
exactly.
So there is a purpose to fan service.
Yeah. And the fans
is a part of popularity.
Fans make things success. What they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, completely off topic for this, but one of my favourite acts of fan service in anything is the third act of Avengers Endgame, because it's all fan service.
Yeah.
But it's all fan service built on 20-odd movies at that point.
It's earned fan service.
Yeah. So, and it's the same as bringing back a character like Dwayne Dibley. I mean, the whole episode with Emo Hawk is bringing back the polymorph as well.
Yeah.
Which is also something that was beloved.
Yeah.
From the earlier seasons. So bringing back the polymorph and then doing something else with it as well. Yeah. And then using it as a way of bringing back, and it gets a huge cheer from the audience when they're watching it. As soon as you see Dwayne Dibley come up from behind the counter, the moment they see the hair, the audience starts cheering. So that's even before you get to the teeth.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love any excuse for them to put Kryten's northern head on.
Yes.
Oh, he's grumpy Sparehead 3.
Yeah. Northern head.
As a southerner, he was just always northern to me.
As a northerner, I am offended by the idea that we are all grumpy and miserable. And I'm not doing very well
by the accuracy of this statement.
Never been so offended by something I 100% agree with.
Oh, excuse me, I'm choking on indignation here.
So glamorous. So Red Dwarf, worth it?
Definitely
worth it.
Absolutely enabled me to swear without using swear words.
Yes.
Smeg. Git, goit, gimboid.
Well, this is where I got git from. Obviously, I use it a lot, and it's all Rimmer's fault.
Yeah. But definitely, this is one I would recommend, and I would also recommend it to our friends across the pond.
Yes,
because it doesn't feel too quintessentially British.
No, I think the reason they tried to adapt it is because it's good and it's popular.
But you get some things like Faulty Towers that wouldn't translate to an American audience.
No,
it's a classic, or Mr. Bean.
I think with something like Fawlty Towers as well, it's like a bit mean, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, or say Bottom, for example. As much as I love Bottom with like Rick Mayo and Adrian Edmondson, a lot of Americans just don't get it because they are horrible people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't want to know Ed and Richie. No. They are awful.
Yeah.
And they're awful to each other.
Yeah, they have to understand that in the American way of understanding that is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Which, again, I can't stand.
Yeah.
I can cope with Bottom, but I just, it's like, there is no redeeming quality as soon as people switch it off.
Yes.
Yeah, whereas I think...
in Red Dwarf, they've got a redeeming quality.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think even Rimmer, as awful as he can be, has some redeeming qualities, which help.
Yeah,
I struggle to think of what they all are, but
I like one review of Red Dwarf contained the fact that it worked because it was a British sitcom, but it was being very British, which is where we try our best, but we're still a bit crap.
Yeah.
And then when they succeed and when they survive, they're always like really surprised.
Yeah.
That it worked.
Yeah.
And weirdly, my brain on a tangent of gone. It just reminds me of Britain in the Olympics 2012. We tried our best and it worked. We really didn't expect it to be so successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did we get away with that one?
I know.
There are elements of that in Red Dwarf where they are just looking at each other across the room like we're doing now, and just like, how
worked.
Yeah.
Like where Chris gets the simulants to chase them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they run away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you can't put it much more succinctly than that, can you?
Yeah. Okay.
And the moral of the story is appreciate what you've got, because basically I'm fantastic.
Just a quick note before I move on to the outro. It's just me on my own for this because I'm actually recording this after we all sat down together. Although Tallulah and Zulu will both be back for the little outro that I'm doing in a minute. But essentially, there was some recent news that came out before I could actually get this episode out, announcing that Doug Naylor and Rob Grant had reached an arrangement by which they would both be free to tell new Red Dwarf stories. Essentially, when they split after Series 6, it was not particularly amicable. In fact, they both wrote different novel series, both taking the story into their own unique directions. And I've forgotten which one it was that we've actually read. I think Backwards was written by one of them, and Better Than Life was written by another one, but potentially, I'm not entirely sure. So the announcement that's come out recently is that both of them are going to be moving and creating new stories for Red Dwarf. It doesn't particularly say in what form these stories are going to take, whether we're going to get reboots, new series, potentially a film or a television film, if nothing else. Perhaps comic books, audio dramas, new novels. Could be a whole variety of different things. Personally, we're all excited about it here. I have discussed it with the other two. We're all excited. We like Red Dwarf. And yeah, a lot of the recent Red Dwarf stuff has felt very good. We went back and rewatched Series 10 through 12 and the Promised Land special film. They do capture a lot of the magic of sort of Series 3 to Series 6 of Red Dwarf. And I think, while there are still some episodes that aren't as good as others, I don't think there's any duds. I don't think there's any duds in Red Dwarf at all, to be completely honest. Even the episodes I like the least, such as Body Swap, where Lister and Rimmer swap bodies in Series 3, there's still quite a lot to like. Even in an episode like that, which I do not think is a particularly great version of that trope. So yeah, Red Dwarf is good. It's a lot of fun. And I heartily recommend it, and I'm excited to see more of it.
Right, so I think that we've covered everything we wanted to or needed to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you to all our listeners for joining us. Have you had fun? Would you do it again?
Lots
Zulu?
of fun, yes.
So yes, I've had fun. I unexpectedly talked a lot more than I thought I would, and I had ideas and everything, so that was very good.
You're good at this podcast,
I haven't been scared off.
No.
I might do this again, and it might be Discworld, Terry Pratchett related.
Yes, I have got planned for a Discworld episode, and I think it would be brilliant.
And I think that one's going to be even longer.
Possibly. I might have to do some reading first, but yes, possibly.
Yeah, that's it. Farewell from Zulu and Mr. Flibble.
Mr. Flibble, very cross.
Very cross.
And Tallulah, it was lovely to have you back again.
Yes, I very much enjoyed myself.
Yes, and you'll be back again for Twin Peaks,
Yes.
which we are going to be doing later this year.
Yes, I can't wait. Twin Peaks is my absolute favourite, so I can't wait for that one.
Yes. And meanwhile, I'm going to be back up to my usual nonsense in between, and whenever I can stick to a consistent schedule. But otherwise, thank you for joining us. You can say bye.
Bye. Bye.
Going to do a little quick test with the microphone, see how well it's picking everyone up. Just say something. Anything?
Smeg.
Smeg.
Heed.
You're lying. I've seen her naked.
Thank you, my friends, for once again joining me on Garhdo Goes Geek. Your continued support for this podcast means the absolute world to me, and I am grateful for every single one of you who stays and listens to one of my episodes. It means the absolute world. Now, if you would like to engage more with me or the podcast, we have a Discord community, small but growing, and we now have commissions open on Ko-Fi. So if there's a topic you would like to see me cover, you can pay me to cover it. All funds will be used for legal purchase of the relevant items where I do not have them. Have a look on the link tree for more information. Until next time, look after yourselves.